Hi, Eve. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, nice to meet you, Julie.
Yeah, nice to have you. I'm excited for us to chat and kind of talk a little bit about some things that you've experienced within your business and sharing some of your wisdom with us. So thanks for being here. What I would love to do, what I would love to do to start is if you could share a little bit with our listeners what you're currently doing with your IHP certification.
So I have two different types of programs. I have a group program where I have, people who just need to lose weight. It's more of like a nutrition / lifestyle program. I started that program a couple of years ago because I just felt like people wanted something different, and I'm very into like food and cooking a lot. So I was able to like transform a lot of different recipes and make people feel like they weren't on a diet. So I have that group program where people use it mainly for weight loss. And then through IHP, I've created more like one-on-one programs to help people who can't simply lose weight just through diet and lifestyle. So I'll go more into like the functional testing, looking at blood work. And I have some doctors that I work with one-on-one to have them run any sorts of blood work that they need.
That's great. And have you always been in the health and wellness space? What were you doing before you kind of found IHP and the world of health and wellness?
No, so I wasn't always in the health world. I was always in the food world. I used to cook really unhealthy, but like since a really young age. And I used to work in a family business with, furniture, clothing, wholesale, accounts receivable, doing stuff on like desk work. I came into the health and wellness world when I got sick with my second child. I was dealing with gallstones and gastritis and IBS, all the standard things that, doctors will diagnose you with and not really figure out why. And then I was able to lose all the weight. I lost like 65 pounds within a year, just like through eating healthier. I was dealing with Hashimoto's. So I took out different things to kind of help that, and felt a lot better. Didn't really know so much about like the health world. Like there's so much out there. Like I was really only doing the basics. And then I had a miscarriage about 3 years ago. And I was like, I'm the type of person that like does not give up. I'm that New Yorker type of style where like, okay, I got to figure this out. So I got into that mentality, and that's when I found IHP and was able to, work with a naturopath, work with a doctor to help me with my thyroid. And I was going through the course while I was working with the naturopath, and I was able to even find what the problem was on my own just through going through the course. And that just like furthered my education with like the, health and wellness space and using functional testing and getting down to the bottom of really identifying what the problems were. I feel like there's so much to learn. Like there's probably more I don't know about.
Yeah. It's even Dr. Cabral, we were actually in a meeting earlier, and he's just like always researching, always learning. It is like the amazing thing about the health and wellness space is if there's something to learn, like if you want to learn something, there's something out there that you can learn that you've never kind of known, right? It's constantly just depends on how deep you want to go. So that's great. When you kind of found the reason or some of the connections to your miscarriage, did that kind of fuel your passion to start doing more of like the testing, the one-on-one coaching?
Yeah, I wanted to help people that were dealing with the same things as I was. I had Hashimoto's since a young age, so I kind of geared more towards helping people, get down to the bottom of why they were dealing with thyroid issues. And I was working with a functional MD in the city, and he's like, oh, where'd you come from? Like, how do you know all this stuff? It's just easy to communicate with him. He's like, oh, why don't we team up and work together? And he's a great doctor, specializes in thyroid also as well. So I'm able to gain a lot of knowledge through him also. So I think that was like a good thing that I added under my belt to work with clients one-on-one and to also confide in him when I needed something.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What I would love to kind of touch upon that you mentioned. So you have a group program that allows people to kind of come in and get things like surface, level things. Well, I shouldn't say surface level because it's really foundational, but things like lifestyle changes, whether it be nutrition, exercise. I'm sure you're talking about like stress and those types of things. And that allows you to probably help a certain amount of clientele. And then what happens is the people that are kind of left over, you then put more towards like a one-on-one program where you're able to identify what might be their underlying root cause through some functional medicine testing. Is that kind of the way things typically are working?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of success are you seeing that as far as like from a business perspective? Are you finding that a lot of the people who aren't getting, the good results with the nutrition and with the exercise are open to doing testing, and then they do work one-on-one with you and then are getting results? Do you find that it's like a really good funnel that you've created?
Yeah, I mean, doing the testing definitely helps to identify what the issues are. And I think when you have multiple different tests, you can kind of like see, okay, what's happening, but we can't really figure out like, okay, but this is causing this and this is causing that. It's hard to figure out that stuff. I think learning more about the person, specifically just through like symptoms, helps you figure that out. But there's always something to find when you run these types of tests.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the people that are doing the group program, are they typically open to running tests that you find?
I think it just comes down to like affordability. I try to work with people on that, and doing things in like the order of priority. Really I think the main issues that like I see like just in general is the foundations, and it's always going to come down to the foundations. Like I have clients that can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on testing, and we can go through all these different phases of trying to fix the issue, but sometimes it doesn't even work because they're not even doing the foundations. So
yeah.
I think it's kind of like, this is a great space to use testing. It's a great space to have, lifestyle and nutrition and, the sleep and all the foundational pieces. But I think doing both together has to be something that someone's willing to do, not to just jump into like spending money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Sometimes people are just hoping that they can throw money at the problem, like the magical supplement for sleep or the magic supplement for stress. And they're not willing to necessarily, stop eating late at night, which will help sleep, or, just getting off their computer and prioritizing, relaxation. There's so many foundational things that quite frankly are free, right? That so many people can be implementing. And like you said, not spending thousands of dollars on just testing right away. And I feel like the way you have it structured is a really nice way to kind of weed all of that out and show people that they do have to take some ownership of their foundational things and the lifestyle choices that they're making, like nutrition and exercise and all the other things that you might talk about, because that really is where they're going to get lasting, quote unquote, health benefits. And then there's the few people that might have a thyroid imbalance or, yeast overgrowth or something that needs to be addressed to kind of further along their weight loss or their wellness. Do you find that a lot of the people just have great success within the foundational lifestyle group program?
100%. I mean, years ago, it used to be very easy because we weren't dealing with, all the added stress. And like, since COVID, apparently, like, unfortunately, is a lot of people dealing with a lot of issues since then. And it's only, I feel like it's only getting worse. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, or maybe it's because it's the New Yorker in me, because we do live like in a fast-paced city, and people will, deal with more health issues here than I think anywhere else if you're living like in a country.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I think we're allowed to say it's getting worse because I feel like a lot of people, I've talked to people just recently who say like, oh God, I feel like there's like this added like stress. There was stress before, but they feel like this extra veil of stress that's kind of just like further weighing things down. And I think there's so much, worry, there's so much unknown, but then there's a whole lot of, just like you said, the fast paced hustle culture that everybody's just going from one thing to the next. And there's never any downtime to kind of do anything but go from one thing to the next. And our specifically women, our hormonal systems, our biology was never to be constantly running at the pace that we are, because we were just never biologically designed to do that. There should have been periods of rest, and now there's not, and people aren't sleeping, and they're specifically women are trying to raise kids and also run a business and do all trying to lose weight. Is that what you said?
And always trying to lose weight and not giving that body that balance it needs.
Yes. Yeah. Because and trying to lose weight can sometimes just be one more stress, right? That their body's perceiving as, the stress of needing to, and exercise, right? So when you are constantly like running right from the lion, and there's always this stress in your life, and then you go and throw exercise into the mix, sometimes that can make things worse, right? If it's not the proper exercise, again, specifically usually for women. So it's really this balance that it takes a professional to sometimes say, okay, this is what you need to kind of nourish yourself in the season that you're in. And it's not always the same for everybody. I think it can be different.
100%.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of women? Is it more kind of female focused in your program, or do you get females and males?
Mostly female.
Okay.
Men, I really mostly see that men with type 2 diabetes, more with like metabolic dysfunction or not being able to lose weight, but mainly women.
Okay. And how many of those, because I know thyroid's kind of your specialty, do you see a lot of women come from the group program with thyroid imbalances?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, I believe that that's just a fallout from stress. It's usually that, stress can oftentimes get us to the place where the thyroid's just kind of now been taxed along with the adrenals, and getting us out of fight or flight is the biggest thing that we need to do.
Yeah. In my group program, I really it's mainly focused on weight loss, but I really also try to instill perspective of prevention, getting women to understand like how different foods affect us and how different foods can, affect our epigenetics and methylation. Like a lot of people don't even know what like methylation is, and explaining that to them so that they can prevent different things down the line from happening. Fortunately, people don't open their eyes until it hits them. But I try to also do that too as well, to get them to prevent different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just the education piece, right? We never know who's going to hear and take our education. That's I think the beauty of social media is we can educate there, and we never really know who it's touching or who's taking that information and then bettering their life. But oftentimes someone is, and some people are a preventative mindset. Some people need the fire alarm going off before they bother to get the bucket to put the flames out. But it's all about educating for sure. Now, one thing that you had mentioned, which I would love to did you say culinary nutrition? Did you go to a culinary nutritional school?
Yeah, New York City.
Okay. So is this like taught you how to create culinary masterpieces that are also healthy?
It's called Natural Gourmet Institute. It was formed by Anne Marie Colden. I think Dr. Cabral has mentioned her a few times. She was like the pioneer with food is healing. She wrote a few books on how food can be healing. They use a lot of the approaches that Dr. Cabral uses, which is like Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine. So if we have, let's say, like if someone's cooking for someone that's like a cancer patient or someone who just had surgery, learning how to make the food flavorful for them so that they can eat it and be able to, digest it better. It was two sides of the curriculum where half of it had to do with the cooking aspect, and then the other half had to do with nutrition and medicine and using it as, eat more of this for these specific nutrients if someone's dealing with a specific diagnosis. It was an intense program. That's all I have to say. I'd wake up at 4:00 in the morning just to go. And then I wouldn't come home until 11 because we're not just cooking. They have us also, doing cleanup and cooking for hundreds of people and learning how to do it at that capacity. It was intense.
Yeah, it sounds so cool though. So how much of that do you use in your business now? You said that you kind of like incorporate it to help people realize that they can make like healthy food taste good. Cause I think so many people think when it comes to being healthy, you have to like eat salad. I have a friend who calls it rabbit food. Like you have to just eat salad for every meal and you can't make, quote unquote, comfort meals that are actually healthy for you. So you do a lot of education with your clients based on what you learned in that program?
Yeah. So on that group program, I had hundreds of people years ago doing it just because they wanted the recipes. And I was able to make over 60 weeks of just menus and recipes of traditional recipes like recreated or my background is Israeli, Lebanese, Mediterranean, American, Chinese. Like I use that, but I also added I love Chinese food. I love Indian food. I love all different types. So I incorporated that into the program also as well, where people can have access to all these different types of recipes and not feel like they're on a diet. So if I bump into someone on the street, they're like, I still do your program. Like, you're not doing the program. You're doing it because it's a lifestyle and it's something that you can do all the time because they're still using the recipes. They love it.
Yes. Well, they're still doing the program because they're still eating, right? Like we have to eat. And that I always say, for some people, it can be like the hardest quote unquote drug to figure out because you can't just put down food, right? You can stop drinking or you can stop doing a lot of things that aren't good for your health. But the one thing that you have to continue to do and find a way to do it in a way that it's healthy and that you have a good relationship with is eating. And so I think for so many people, especially people who love food, right? Because I have a lot of clients who they're like, I'm a foodie. I could never go on a diet. And they think that everything has to taste bland or everything has to just be a salad and they can no longer eat good tasting food. And sometimes it's just not the case. Do you find that that's a misconception?
100%.
Yeah.
I don't like anyone to feel like they're on a diet. So I try to tell them, tell me what you eat, tell me what you like. And I try to teach them, okay, don't use butter, use grass-fed butter, use ghee, use more of these healthy alternatives that you can just swap out in your favorite recipes. Very easy to do. They just need the resources.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it's so much education because once you educate somebody on the differences or just what the options are, because some people don't even know that there's another option besides, the canola oil spray that they've been using forever. It's like, okay, well, what else would I use instead of that? I think we can take for granted when we're in this space that it's just like common knowledge. Like, how could you not know that canola oil is bad for you, right? But there's so many people that just do what they've always done, and they don't necessarily think or, have other options until they're taught, because they're not health coaches. And so having that education piece, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with the culinary, that type of experience, and did you say that your family business, was the family business food related?
No,
No.
not at all.
Oh, okay. I think you said maybe that you loved food. Do you find that it's like part of your life? Obviously you're a mom. How many kids do you have?
I have 4 kids.
Wow. Okay. You just recently had twins, which I'm sure that do you use a lot of what you learned with your own cooking and with the kids and all of that when you have time?
I still write every week. Like, I'm not eating the same things ever. I'm not the type. I get bored easily, but like every week I'll make a new menu. I'll make a new recipe. I like playing around in the kitchen a lot. Keep it interesting, then you don't get sick of it.
Right. Yeah. Because the food burnout, again, that people, how many times can you eat chicken over salad and think like, oh, this is great. And I believe that like the energy that you attach to what you're eating, like if you hate it and you're just like choking down a salad with chicken, like that is not, you're not like attaching good energy to what you're putting in your body. And what's the point? Like if you're hating the food that you're eating, that's just creating more stress. Right. And so enjoying. Yeah. Yeah. And so many people think that they have to be miserable while they're on a diet or it's not going to work and like deprive themselves. There's just so much mindset around like diet culture in general that I feel like there's such a great need for something like the program that you went through. What was it called again, if people were interested?
Natural Gourmet Institute, but I think it's called ICE. Bought the school out. So now Natural Gourmet Institute is part of ICE.
Ah, I gotcha. Okay. And is it in an in-person program?
Yeah.
Can you do it virtually? It's in person.
Yeah, it's in person.
Okay. I think it's such a great, because again, it's teaching you not only for yourself, but then also you're able to bring it to your clientele. And like you said, people using it forever is one of the biggest blessings, because they have to eat forever. So you might as well keep cooking interesting. It's one of the biggest hang-ups, obvious, that I have. I like to cook healthy. I like to cook healthy meals, but even my kids will get sick of it. They'll love something and I'll be like, okay, I'll make that next week. And then I make it and they're like, oh, we're sick of this. I'm like, oh, great. So now I need to think of something new. But I don't ever really get mad at them, because I don't like to eat the same thing all the time either. I typically do just because it's quick and simple. But yeah, I think there's so many people that need to kind of change it up and keep things interesting to keep them focused and interested in it.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite book? If somebody, isn't in New York or couldn't go to New York for the program, do you have any book resources or podcasts or anything that kind of teaches something similar, if people are listening and kind of wanted to know a little bit more about it?
About what, the program?
Well, more about kind of mixing in what the program teaches. So what I find fascinating is kind of it taught you the culinary aspects, but then also taught you kind of the healing properties of food and how to cook for certain deficiencies or certain diagnoses or whatnot.
I haven't really made anything. The only thing I could really think of is I created a health handbook. I have it as an ebook on my website. There's a section, there's a few sections in there. There's one section where I give a list of stuff that you would normally use. And then swap out substitutions. And then I have a list of like different nutrient deficiencies, and then a list of different foods that can help them get that nutrients that they need, that they're missing through food.
That's great. Okay. So that they can access on your website, which we'll get all that information at the end of the show. And also we'll link it up in the show notes so that people can find it if they're looking for it. So that's great.
Yeah.
And then the author that you mentioned or the woman that you mentioned who created the Institute, her name was, I forget what you said.
Marie Colvin.
Oh, okay. And does she have a book?
Yeah, she has a few.
She has a few. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure hers would be good resources as well. Is there one thing, if you were to kind of say, as far as maybe everything that you've done so far, that you find makes your business, quote unquote, successful? What would be maybe one thing that you would identify as such?
I don't like to give up on anything. And I don't like to give up on anyone. Obviously, being a health coach, we always want to attract people who are motivated and, want to put in the effort to helping themselves, it's very hard to find. But when I do have those clients that are really dedicated and wanting to achieve what they want, it makes it easier for me. But at the same time, I'm more consistent with not giving up on them. And that's one thing that I think that, a lot of people need. They need someone that's going to help them and not give up on them. I don't know if I can, wait, hold on. I don't know if I could say this, but I had, just give you like an example. I promised myself, since I had my miscarriage, that I would help one person a month, which obviously now it took more than a month, but I was giving free coaching for people that, were dealing with infertility and trying to get down to the bottom of why they couldn't get pregnant. And I was helping one of my clients that actually turned into one of my really, really good friends. And she's pregnant. She wasn't able to hold a pregnancy. She was also dealing with thyroid issues. And now she's pregnant. And she was a little resistant on wanting to test for things because kind of get into our heads like, oh, we don't want to deal with something. We're too scared. And I ended up going to her house and, I went through the same thing. So I know what to look for. And I went through mold toxicity before after I had my miscarriage. So I was able to look at her house and she had massive mold all over.
Wow.
All over the house. And she's pregnant now. And she's so in her head with like, I'm going to lose it, or, God forbid something's going to happen. And I'm just like, you got this. We got this. I got you. I'm going to guide you. And, hopefully everything will be fine. So, I mean, I have the programs, I have the group programs, I have the one-on-ones, but I also want to help other people for free, one at a time, with people who are really dealing with that sorts of issues like the infertility and thyroid.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we all, like, whatever brought us to the place where we, became practitioners, we know what it feels like to be in that place. Right. And that's ultimately what leads us to wanting to find answers and then share it with other people, because we know what sadness, fear, hopelessness, any of the emotions that come along with what we all went through as practitioners before we, kind of came to this place. It's just, I think it's what makes us so special, I think. And I've talked to, all the interviews that I've done. It's something that so many of us share in common. I always say to my husband, he likes to, and I've said this on this podcast before, he likes to dream about like, oh, what would we do if we hit the lottery? And I would still do this, and I would simply do it for free for everybody. I would just kind of have like a business where, people applied for my help, and my soft spot would absolutely be women and fertility, young moms, all of that, because I know kind of what it can feel like to be in the place of needing support. And I think what you said is so amazing of just like not giving up, right? Maybe everybody needs a health coach from New York is, is everybody needs someone in their corner that they know is a steady person that they can count on, right? We all deserve that. We all need someone to go, no. I know you're too scared to do this, but I got you and we can get through this. It's what a gift to be able to give to people. Truly.
Thank you.
Yeah. When I was personal training, I was back in, I would one person, same thing. One person kind of like every year, it would be like their yearly membership. I would do extremely discounted for someone who, couldn't afford it. And, it was usually a woman. And yeah, it's a way that we can kind of give back in a small way, right? That is able to reach someone who maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to get our guidance and our help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you have your twins are, did you say 10 months old?
Yeah.
They're IHP babies.
Here we are. Not gonna lie.
So amazing. So where, if people are listening and they kind of want to find out more and, your ebook and all of that, where are all the places that you kind of show up on social media or websites or any of that?
I'm mainly on Instagram under flavorful_fit. My website is the same, www.flavorfulfit.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This is such a great interview and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eve.